On today's episode, we detail the prospects you must keep an eye on when Penn State faces off against Boise State in the college football playoffs. Ashton Jeanty is the best running back in the 2025 NFL draft class, but Nicholas Singleton can steal the show. We'll talk about that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everyday. As you know, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man. And the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. And I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. DP, today we are talking college football playoffs, right? And we have to start with Penn State versus Boise State, right? It's almost like Boise State, and I know you like to talk Avengers, right? It's Boise State kind of versus the Avengers, right? When you have Abdul Carter, Dana Denai Sutton, Kobe King, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna talk offensive prospects, defensive prospects, and then X factor prospects. DP, let's jump into these offensive guys straight from the top.
Keith, in this game, when you look at the offensive prospects, the top offensive prospect and top graded offensive prospect for almost every scout available is Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. But Keith, I believe Nicholas Singleton, the 6'6", 228-pound running back from Penn State, has the skill set and everything to steal the show. We know the scouts and decision makers who are going to be watching this game, who are going to be boots on the ground. Number one, they always come for the top guy. They're coming for, Drew Allen's he's not coming out for this draft. They're coming for Ashton Jeanty. Let's see what Ashton Jeanty can do. Not only can he get the rushing record from Barry Sanders, but can he lead his team to an upset win? And what Nicholas Singleton needs to do is just play his game. Truthfully, for me, I'm saying, be honest about it. When I look at these two running backs, the two things I give Ashton Jeanty over Singleton is he's more elusive, and he has that that low center of gravity for his contact balance. Everything else is to me, I say his vision's a little bit better, but like power, like the power that Nicholas Singleton runs with is very similar, close to on the same tier of Ashton Jeanty. He's more explosive, he's more dynamic. He runs a little angrier to me in terms of just he wants to inflict punishment instead of making guys miss sometimes. And then as a receiver, he's a better player. He's a better receiver and pass protector in the pocket. To me, Nicholas Singleton is a better overall running back, like complete running back. He can be on all three downs because he can pass protect at a high clip, but also you can split him out into the slot and run actual routes with him, not just a functional stuff underneath, but down the field. I think he has a real strong chance to he's come off a game against SMU, 90 yards rushing, I think 1 or 2 touchdowns in that game. I think he's got a chance to steal a show and kind of turn the eyes for those scouts and GMs from Ashton Jeanty onto himself.
Well, DP, you said a lot, and we only a couple minutes into this podcast. I'm gonna turn back and ask you a question. Do you just flat out believe that Nicholas Singleton is the better running back prospect? Is that what you're saying? Because you listed off some attributes, and you said you believe that Nicholas Singleton is better in this, and this, right? That's kind of how you prefaced it. So, do you believe that he's the better running back prospect, or are you not that high on Ashton Jeanty as a prospect? Like, which one is it? I guess if you could be more definitive and clear.
Jeanty's still my RB1. I still have him as a first round caliber prospect. Singleton, when I look at the two, and I'm like, all right, they go into the NFL. Whose skill set actually is better for the NFL and what we see from the NFL? It is Singleton. It's not many opportunities running backs going to get. You're going to get 30 carries, 32, 35 carries a game in the NFL as a lead running back, right? A lot of teams run that. They run a lot of, kind of RB by committee stuff like that. Like they want to have 2-3 running backs, but also like just from an aspect of I don't have to take Singleton off the field on third downs. Not saying that you have to take Jeanty off, because Jeanty can pass protect. He's nowhere near the receiver that Singleton is. Singleton is a much better receiver down the field, underneath, intermediate, run after catch ability, stuff like that, and the explosiveness and athleticism that he brings to the table. So for me, I think that they're close. Jeanty is the much better runner. Jeanty's patient, his vision, movement ability. He could be that one cut slashing type where I look at Singleton more of a gap scheme runner than just pure zone. So scheme is going to be very big for him. But overall, as an overall talent, I think that it is Singleton just because of all the different facets that he brings to the game. But Jeanty is just such an absolute stud as a runner. Whereas, like, man, if he walks out of this game with 40 carries, they might win this game if he's had 40 carries to dictate the pace, keep Drew Allen that offense off the field.
Yeah, well, no, I think and I'm glad we had the surface level version of this conversation, but I think obviously we should talk about this, right? Jump back into the running back conversation and say exactly how we feel, starting all the way from running back 1 to running back 20, because there's so many running backs in this class. DP, when it comes to offensive prospects, right? I do want to talk about Tyler Warren, right? Definitely somebody to watch and look out for, because is there a conversation that Tyler Warren could be tight end 1, right? Because everybody, I think we came in, and I know you was extremely high on him, and I'm still in the same boat. I think Colston Loveland is a top 10 overall prospect in this class, but Tyler Warren is gaining so much ground, and I think some of that is due to production, right? And if he gets an opportunity to where he's productive in a college football playoff game where Penn State potentially, let's say if they have a blowout game, he goes for 120 yards and he finds a way to get in the end zone twice, right? Then people are going to start talking about, hey, Tyler Warren could be the best tight end in this class. Now, do I necessarily agree with that? No, but do I think that Tyler Warren is a very talented prospect? I think instead of moving Colston Loveland down, I think it's about more moving Tyler Warren up, right? And what he can be and his impact in the NFL. So I look at Tyler Warren for Penn State and I say, you know what? Like that's a guy that has a lot of steam and momentum to gain, to kind of solidify and kind of plant his flag as a top guy in this draft process.
Crazy enough, Keith, they are already saying that. Like that's the conversation where it is now. Like you see a lot of people, and someone jumped into because I've been vocal about this. Harold Fanning Jr. was robbed of the John Mackey Award. Like you don't break records at the tight end position and lead all the major statistical categories. You shared the same field with Tyler Warren. You dominated Texas A&M's defense. It was no argument for him not to win. But he didn't win. It was Tyler Warren. Someone said, well, Tyler Warren plays Wildcat quarterback. Don't care. That has nothing to do with playing tight end. I don't know why that is even part of the discussion. Like, yes, it's cool that he's fun and he can line up in different ways. All that's great. In the NFL, brother, you're going to have to line up in the slot, out wide, and in line. Like that, nobody's really running Wildcat tight end with you in the NFL at a high clip the way. And if Penn State had more receivers, they wouldn't do that either. You know what I mean? They're doing it because they don't have really much of a choice. They got to get their best players in positions to make plays. So I think Tyler Warren is absolutely made, like he's up there. For me, that big three of tight ends, it's a close race. Like Loveland's still my tight end 1. I think if you swap positions, you put Loveland with Drew Aller, we see a different Colston Loveland than we were able to see at Michigan. You put Tyler Warren in Michigan, we probably don't utter his name as much because they just run the football. So it's just all about, something you used to always say, like, out of sight, out of mind. If Tyler Warren's in Michigan, it's completely out of sight, out of mind, right? But so for me, I think that he's going to be big. He didn't have a big game against SMU, like the passing offense wasn't rolling. But this is a game where I think he can absolutely dominate that second level, those linebackers and those safeties. And real quick, Keith, even though Ashton Jeanty is the guy we all talk about, pay attention to number 9, Cam Camper, their wide receiver, 6'3", 197. Guy has good speed. Route running is pretty good as well. He's their leading receiver for almost 900 yards receiving on the season. He's going to have a chance to really stamp himself against a talented secondary over there in Penn State.
Yeah, well, DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. And coming up next, we talk offense. Let's flip sides of the football. Show the defense some respect around here, man. Talk about the defensive prospects to watch. Talk about that coming up next.
Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Defensive prospects to watch when Boise State faces off against Penn State in the college football playoffs. Keith, it's got to be Abdul Carter, right? Like, this is the biggest game changer on the defensive side of the ball in this game. But he's going to have to, like, this is one of those games where I don't think he can't think pass first. You got to think setting the edge. And one thing about Ashton Jeanty, what I love about him, he's a very disciplined runner. So don't expect him to just bounce and jump cut outside to the perimeter. He's gonna stay on the run track. He'll sidestep and make some guys missing on the interior, but he's very disciplined to the run path and how the run play is designed. He doesn't really get out of that design too often. When you see some running backs, Keith, because they're how explosive they are, it's like I remember watching Saquon at Penn State. And there'll be times Saquon look dead at a hole in the interior and be like, nah, I'm going outside. Jump cut, get outside, and then he goes 80. I'm like, well, when you can do that, I can't argue with you. You know what I mean? But it's like, can we stay on the run path? Ashton just does a great job of that. So it's not even, hey, look out from the bounce it outside. You got to collapse the edge if you're Abdul Carter. You got to stand up on the edge, collapse it, and allow your linebackers to run, fill their lanes, and slow him down. Because you have an offense that can put points up. To me, that Boise State defense, it goes as Abdul Carter goes.
Yeah, DP, I'm going to go with a couple other guys, right? We mentioned Abdul Carter. I would like to see, I wonder if because of the heavy run game, is he going to play some linebacker, right? Like, are they going to put him in the middle of the defense and then allow him to chase and run? And I know he's made the transition, right, to playing more edge rusher, but I told you, and I'll say it again. I think he's a better stand-up linebacker than what Michael Parsons is. I think he can, like, literally start in the NFL and be a serviceable to good linebacker in the NFL, just linebacker, right? So I wonder if they're going to do some different things and maybe put him as stack backer. And we've never, like, really, this is not a thing and it's not really a conversation, right? But at that position, could he kind of play the spy to Ashton Jeanty, right? Like, hey, you, whatever Ashton Jeanty goes, you go, right? Like, just whatever direction he runs, you run, right? Like, and we never applied it to the run game, but just very similar in that capacity. But the two guys I want to talk about is the defensive tackle, Zane Durant, for Penn State, right? What is he going to be able to do? And I know people have some late to mid-round grades on him. Can he dominate in the interior, right? Can he blow some stuff up? This is prime you at Penn State. You're going against Boise State offensive linemen. You should dominate and become the name, right, in this conversation. And then the other guy, obviously Danny Denai Sutton. Listen, you want to make a name for yourself. There's so many edge rushers, right? I think early on, maybe he'd have came in at edge 9 or 10, right? Like when we first started this draft process, but there's so many edge rushers popping up left and right that you find yourself at edge 15, edge 20 really quickly in this draft process. You want to make a name for yourself and get people back buzzing about you, dominating the run game, get people to say, like, hey, this is just a head in the ground. He can stop the run, right? We talked about this on a couple podcasts when we talking about the rarity of finding a 4-3 hand in the ground edge rusher that's 6'4, 260 pounds, 270, right? Danny Denard Sutton, you can be that. Show your rarity, dominate in the trenches, and get the job done.
No, 100%. Him and Abdul just being able to control the edges, like I said, collapse him, really close the walls on Ashton. Because also with him, like he knows how to get into creases and get out of creases. You got to be disciplined as a run defense. If you don't stay to your run lane, listen, I did my breakdown on him, and I said he's a narcissist as a runner. He's manipulative. Like he wants to show you something to get you out of your way. You got to be disciplined. Same thing for Kobe King at the linebacker spot. Fill your run lanes. Don't get aggressive. Don't jump into your teammates' rush lane and things of that nature. Like fill the run gaps you're supposed to fill. Because if you don't, listen, it's going to be a house call. It's going to be 60, 70 yards. And now it's a game. And when you keep it close, that's why Penn State's defense is, to me, going to be the MVP of this game. If you allow them to keep it close, you allow Ashton Jeanty to make his imprint on the game. But if you can slow them down early, Drew Allen, that offense scores 14 straight. Now they're down 14-0. You put yourself in a good spot. Keith, they have a defensive end. Edge, you're talking about like those base defensive end. When you're talking about Danny Dennis Sutton, Ahmad Hassanin for Boise State, 6'3", 271. And this is a guy that, like, he's also going to have to play the run first, stop not just Nick Singleton, Katron Allen as well, that big 230-pound hammer that they like to run. You got two running backs that run very physical and powerful. But when you do allow him to rush the passer, he has a 16.3 pass rush win rate. On true dropback sets, it jumps up to 26.2. He has on true dropback sets, 6 sacks, 8 hits, QB hits, and 21 pressures and hurries. So he knows how to get into the backfield. And that offensive line kind of feels like they're still young. Like they're not a very, like, just not talented. They're talented, but they have some moments where pressure gets back there. And how do you disrupt a young quarterback and force bad decisions? You get into his face. You stop the run. You get in the backfield on key plays. So when Penn State gets to 3rd and 7, his presence needs to be felt in this game, because I don't know if they have. And again, we talk about Penn State. Penn State doesn't have a ton of receivers or any that you have to really worry about right now. You got to stop the 2 running backs, Drew Allen, his dual threat ability, and Tyler Warren. If those guys aren't slowed down, this could look like SMU all over again. You know what I mean? Like this could look like a blowout win. Ahmad, when this 3rd and 7, he needs to get back there, help his team, get stops, and get Penn State off the field. But it first starts with the run game. You got to stop, because I don't think they have the athletes on defense at the 2nd and 3rd levels. If Nicholas Singleton breaks the first level of containment, it might be a wrap. Like, you know what I mean? Like, same thing with Ashton Jeanty. Those big plays, like, you can't allow them to have big explosives. You got to, what's the phrase, Keith? You got to make this you got to muddy this fight. You got to make this a muddy street fight, physical, like, at all facets of the game. I think Ahmad Hassanin for the Boise State defensive end, like I said, 6'3", 270, looks like one of the base defensive ends that people wonder if this class has. He has to have a big game if Boise State has a chance defensively of slowing down that Penn State offense.
Yeah, DP, I'm going to wrap this up real quick with, I know, and I got to mention my guy, right? He's not playing, but I still got to mention him, Kevin Winston, right? But we talk about his teammate, Jalen Reed. You talk about running lanes. You're talking about filling gaps. You're talking about coming down from 12 yards. You're talking about potentially being a guy in one-on-one situations, 7 yards plus the line of scrimmage, and you have to make the tackle, or this is going for 60, right? Jalen Reed, you have to have a big-time game, right? Listed at strong safety. I think he plays some strong safety, some nickel, does some different things, right? Kind of a movement piece, but you have to be solid, right? Like, and the thing is this, that you don't need any I don't need you to do the spectacular in this game, right? I'm not asking you to be that, to come up with spectacular plays. I'm asking you, like you said, right, just to do your job, right? Fill this lane. If you got the C gap, take care of the C gap. If you got the D gap, take care of the D gap. If you got the backside B gap in some situations in which you have to pay attention to that with Ashton Jeanty, because he'll bounce that thing from front side C all the way to backside B, right? Like it's crazy what he'll do. You have to have your containment, right? Like your eyes can't get too big. You can't want to go play hero ball. That's what get defenses in trouble in the run game. When people don't let the game come to them, right? They want to go make the play. They want to be over aggressive, right? And get out of lanes and things like that and become undisciplined. You almost create the holes for the running back, right? Because of your willingness to want to make the tackle. And Ashton Jeanty, he's the guy that makes you pay, right? First of all, you need to be able to tackle in bunches. But if you over pursue, he's gonna make you play bouncing it backside or whatever that may be. So I look at Jalen Reed and say he's going to have a really big game and big opportunity. But DP, you know what I'm ready to talk? X factor prospects. Yep, we're going to talk about the guys that are going to be the decision makers in this game coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. X Factor prospects to watch when Boise State faces Penn State. Keith, I go to, man, there's a couple of X Factors here, but I got to go to a quarterback for Boise State. I think it's Maddox Madsen. You know what I mean? He's like 5'10". Really, when 5'10", 200 pounds. Didn't expect him in camp. Didn't expect him to be the starter. Thought the 5-star kid Malachi Nelson was going to be the guy, especially after Taylor Green transferred to Arkansas. One thing about Maddox this year, granted against Mountain West competition mostly, when defenses have sold out to stop Ashton, he's made plays in the passing game and used his legs to an extent. And when he's gotten the one-on-ones, him and Cam Camper, like they've been able to connect down the field and create explosive in the passing attack. He's going to be the X factor for Boise State because at the end of the day, and I wonder how the play calling is going to go. Do you just do your run-of-the-mill first down Ashton Jeanty, second down Ashton Jeanty, pray that third is third and short so we can give it to Ashton Jeanty again, or do they try and catch him off guard and come out with like play action and take a deep shot, right? Just back them up. Tell them, hey, this is not going to be that type of game where you're going to be able to sell out and just leave our receivers one-on-one and allow Maddox Madsen to push the ball down the field. I think he's going to be a big-time X factor for Boise State if they have any chance to win it. If he throws for less than 200 yards, I don't think they have a chance, Keith. Like he has to throw north of 200, be effective when they do call the passing plays, and just get the ball out of his hands and make quick decisions because while their offensive line is good in the run game, I think they're going to be completely overmatched on those passing downs with Danny Dennis Sutton and Abdul Carter, those guys being able to, if they blitz Kobe King and if they send pressure, I don't think that offensive line is going to be able to hold up against this defensive front 7 or front 8, probably with Ashton Jeanty in the backfield. So I think Maddox Madsen, the quarterback from Boise State, may be the biggest X factor of them all in this entire game. Keith, offensive line, though, when we talk about Penn State being able to be successful, Sam Wormley, their right guard, number 77, has played pretty well all season. He didn't have a great game against SMU and the variety of pass rushes they throw. I think I'm talking about Ahmad Hassanin. I could see him reducing down, not just playing base defensive end, but playing some 3 and some 4-eye and getting them matched up. This guy's strong. In terms of Wormley, good footwork, things of that nature. He played very well against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, shut down, Derek Harmon for the most part, and different things like that. I think he's got a chance, especially in the interior offensive line class that we don't talk a lot about in terms of talent. I think he can make himself some money with this playoff run.
Yeah, DP X factor. I'm gonna go. There's 2 guys we already discussed, and I'm gonna bring their names up, and then it feeds into the X's and O's of the game, right? First of all, it has to be Ashton Jeanty, right? He has to be an X factor prospect. You've been the locomotive, the engine, the heartbeat, however you want to call it, right? He's been a centerpiece for Boise State offense. Yeah, and this is big for his draft stock, right? Because everybody's saying they played Oregon week 1, right? But past that, everybody's saying you haven't really played any competition. Let's see what you're going to do against top-notch competition. Let's see. Penn State is one of the better defenses, one of the best defenses, right, in college football when it comes down to just having NFL draft prospects, right? So you're getting NFL talent versus NFL talent. You're not going to be in an advantageous situation. You're probably going to be in a situation where your team doesn't amount to the team of Penn State or the defense of Penn State, right? And so what are you going to be able to do? Are you still going to be able to break tackles, right? Because sometimes you watch the film of Ashton Jeanty and you're like, can he do that in the NFL, right? Like if that was an NFL linebacker, can he do that? Well, the thing is this, you have an opportunity to kind of hush that noise, make a dude call to miss. Right, like break a tackle on Abdul Carter, break a tackle on Danny Denard Sutton, break a tackle on Kobe King, Jalen Reed. Right, they have so many NFL draft prospects, Jalen Kimball, right, who can play in the NFL at cornerback. So I look at Ashton Jeanty as a guy that can make some noise, and I know he's made a lot of noise already. But you're talking about supplanting yourself, and even if let's say Boise doesn't win, if you have a good effort, people are back talking about you as a top 10 prospect, right? Like this guy can just flat out ball. He's going to be a game changer, game wrecker in the NFL. So I look at Ashton Jeanty as an X factor prospect, and I just think he's going to change the game as far as is Boise State going to be productive? What are they going to do? And then I look at the other side, and I put Nicholas Singleton up there because with Penn State, you don't know what version of Penn State you're going to get, right? Are you going to get the Oregon where, Drew Allen looks great and they're putting up 30 points and nobody's expecting it and they're diming stuff up? Or you're going to get the situation where they score 10 points, 12 points. Their defense has to get a couple touchdowns in order for them to get going and gain their leverage that way. Because I feel like the reason I put Nicholas Singleton up there is if Boise State gets going offensively, right, and they keep the game close, and then Penn State offense is sputtering, which we know it can be, then this can become an interesting game, right? So Nicholas, I think he has to set the tone and be he has to be the locomotive that you can't really rely on a passing attack right now. You have to start that game and be like, you know what, I'm going to be the guy that's going to get 150 yards, maybe 200 all-purpose yards in this game. So I look at both of the running backs and say they play vital roles in who can win this football game.
No, absolutely. And I think, like you said, with Jeanty, I think it's just stamp yourself, right? This just stamp yourself. You did what you did against Oregon, and we've said it. A lot of other people said, like, hey, like that was week 2, like that was the beginning of the season, right? Like Oregon they didn't know who they were at the time. They were trying to figure stuff out, defensive line rotations, all that. Okay, cool. You heard all that noise. You didn't win the Heisman. Now you go up against Penn State, who, remember, against Oregon, their defense struggled to stop the run. Jordan James and that run game were able to set the tone early in that game. If you're Ashton Jeanty, you feel like, man, I'm the best running back in college football. Like, I should be able to do the same thing Jordan James was able to do, which was set the tone early, set the table for my quarterback to have the RPO game, to have the play action game. And if I can do that, we can win this game because, like you said, Penn State's offense is a 4-man show, and 2 of them are running backs. So it's like none of them are a wide receiver. And I just wonder how if Boise State tries to load the box up a little bit and stop the run game and tell Drew Allen, the receivers, y'all beat us. No, we're not going to let Nicholas Singleton and Katron run the ball for 300 yards on us. You guys, quarterback, receivers, can y'all beat us? Things of that nature. So, yeah, Ashton Jeanty, absolutely an X factor for Boise State. If he can have a good game, especially starting off fast, it could get pretty interesting for Penn State if that offense isn't going. And we're gonna see, we're gonna see, because that passing attack is a 1-man show between Drew Allen and Tyler Warren and, like, of course, Nicholas Singleton. But like I said, with Singleton, I think Singleton for me set that tone with physicality. Like, you got to test and see, because I remember it was UNLV game when Boise State, when Ashton Jeanty ran through the chest of one of their corners, and I was like, at that moment I knew the game was over. I was like, they don't want to tackle. Like, I get it was like 20 degrees. They were used to playing in the dome. It was cold. I get that, but still, they did not want to hit that man. Nicholas Singleton, you got to make Boise feel that way. Test them early when you get a chance to. Keith, you've seen running backs like, oh, I can make this guy miss, but I'm gonna run through him, and see how his energy is. Like, let's just see what type of mindset you are. And I think for Nicholas Singleton, you got to do that, because if anybody else is going to do that in this game, it's going to be Ashton Jeanty. He's going to try to run through Jalen Reed. He's going to try to run through Kobe King and bounce off their tackles. Nicholas Singleton have to do the same thing.
Yeah, just a little heat check, right? Like kind of check
Yeah.
your pulse, right? See where you at, right? See if you're locked in. I'm just trying to see if your chin strap is buckled. That's all. I just want to know, right? But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Start for being our every days. On tomorrow's show, guys, we are getting into Texas versus Arizona State. Can Cam Scatterboo take his team past the Longhorns and that elite defense? We're going to talk about all that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.